Welcome back. Oversteer TV, the podcast, online, whatever our name is. I always get confused.
It's Oversteer TV Online, the podcast.
Podcast. Yeah.
There you
Starring, I always
go. Jeff
point the wrong
Brown.
way. Jeff Brown, moi, Anthony
Hey,
Castanera, Tony Castanera.
you're Robin to my Batman.
Exactly. Sure. Uh, oh, well, seasons are all over. Thank you
This
for
is good.
coming.
Yeah,
That was a fun Formula One race.
it was a fun season. It
It
was
was
one of the best Formula One seasons in memory that I
it,
can remember.
it was seven different winners. I mean, it was like early in the season we thought, oh, Verstappen's just going to run away with it like last year, but then the other teams stepped up,
Yeah.
caught up, and Red Bull came in third in the manufacturers championship. Ferrari came in second. McLaren won. That's like if you told me 2 years ago McLaren was going to win the manufacturers championship in 2 years, I said, "Yeah, you're high." Um,
Well, yeah, it was the resurgent of McLaren
uh-huh.
and Mercedes
Mercedes
and the total collapse of Red Bull.
yeah, the Mercedes was sucking at the beginning of the year, and they came back. But then the last race, they were like, where were they? They were falling back. Uh, More penalties.
Well, not as many though. They
They gave that penalty to Verstappen from that first corner, going for trying to pass Piastri, and I don't know. I mean, a 10-second penalty for that, I think that was a little harsh. And even I would have given a penalty to Piastri just for getting in Verstappen's way. How dare he?
I've always said that the most exciting 10 seconds of motorsport is a standing start of a Formula One race. It's just when they start a race, man, for the next 10, 15, 20 seconds, it's just
Mayhem.
balls to the walls excitement right there.
Which I always wonder why I always hear the stupid excuses why doesn't IndyCar have standing starts? And they're like, well, IndyCar drivers don't do standing starts. And I go, they do a standing start every time they leave the pits in
Yeah.
a pit stop. It's the exact same thing. They dump the clutch and they go. Okay.
And they have electric hybrid now, so they have plenty of torque.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
The
electric
shoot.
motors are what give you torque,
Yeah.
like Teslas are like in a quarter mile.
Mm-hmm.
You almost beat a money car, or a top fuel dragster. They're that fast, that
Um,
ludicrous speed they have.
and the other excuse they give, well, is tradition. And I'm like, oh God, that's the lame tradition. Just because we always did it that way is like the worst excuse to not change. If you ask me, I mean,
Well, I can see it in Indianapolis because they're three wide.
yeah,
I
well,
mean,
I can understand. Okay, rolling starts on ovals, I get it because you have the whole accordion effect. Can you imagine
right.
you're in the front row of the Indianapolis 500 and you're standing start, and those guys are coming out of turn four, flying behind you, probably 30 miles per hour faster than you are. That I can understand. All right.
So
Um,
you're saying standing starts for street and road
of
courses,
courses, yeah, it makes
from the
perfect
rolling
sense.
starts on ovals.
It makes
I like
perfect
that.
sense to me. I mean, it would bring some excitement to sport. Um,
Well, next time we see Roger, we'll have to talk to him about that.
I they'll probably know. It's unfortunately the people running IndyCar are still the old school, and the people who think that nothing should change, and we got the best thing in the world. And I go, the numbers
Yeah,
don't bear that out,
exactly.
you know. And people they talk about, oh, we have that great race in Iowa. And I go, nobody cares except the people in Iowa that you had a great race there. Um,
They're always get beat by in the ratings, TV ratings by the women's beach volleyball.
I don't know. Yeah. Right now, NASCAR's number one in this country when it comes to TV ratings. Formula One is a little bit better than IndyCar, but remember, most Formula One races are like 6 in the morning on
Yeah.
ESPN2. and they're getting the same numbers that, I mean, Formula One has gotten better numbers at a race that started 7 in the morning on a Sunday, better numbers than IndyCar got on a Sunday afternoon. Okay, on on network television. It needs help. Now the big thing is that they're talking about their new car because they've been using the same car for 12 years now, the same chassis, which in racing circles that makes that eight. That's literally IndyCar cars that qualify for historic car racing. Okay. They're old
As
enough.
you call them, the crap wagons.
Oh, back in yeah, we back in the day. Um, and they're talking already. They said by 2027 they'll have a new car, which when IndyCar gives a deadline for something's going to happen 2027, add another 5 years to it.
Should be ready by Tampa, right? By St. Pete.
Oh, no, new car.
How long does it take? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I've said it before. The same company makes Indy cars makes the Formula Two cars. If you ever see the Formula Two racing that support Formula One, they have about the same amount of horsepower. Just get one of those. They look cool. They look modern, but they'll never do that. Um, the IndyCar might have a new car by 2030. The way they do things, it's 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 whatever. we got to do a whole show just on IndyCar and all their problems. To me, the biggest news going on right now in racing is Cadillac.
Cadillac going to Formula One.
They dumped Michael Andretti for
Really?
yeah. The finance guys who were whole backing and everything. Okay, they said, Michael, you got to go because nobody likes you. Uh, Literally, as soon as they got rid of Michael Andretti, within a week, Formula One said, "Okay, Cadillac, yeah, you're in, no problem." um, it's still officially called Andretti Formula One something or other team, but it's a Cadillac and some guy named Towns who's financing it. They just signed a deal with Ferrari for their first engine supplier because they're not going to build it because Formula One's going to be changing their engine in a few years. It doesn't make any sense to build a new engine they're going to use for a year or two. So they'll be running a Ferrari engine and gearbox, kind of like Haas does the same thing. And but Cadillac's they're up. Supposedly they're designing their new engine. They have a whole over 150 people hired already, and they're hiring more. It's going to be interesting to see Cadillac up on the grid. At least another two more cars.
Yeah. How many do you think should be the maximum cars in Formula One? 22, 24?
Probably 24 on track. Back in the 90s, there were times where over 30 cars showed up at a race, and they used to have pre-qualifying. So these guys literally, some of these poor teams had to show up, unpack their cars, and you had like no practice, nothing. 50 minutes, show us what you got. And then
pack up and leave again.
Most of them would pack, like one or two would make it into qualifying. And even then qualifying was no guarantee you were going to start the race either. Because I think the maximum then was 26. And so you'd have 28, 29 cars out there trying to qualify and people would pack up. And, of course that doesn't happen now, but 22 cars will look good. I would like to see maybe one other team show up. There's a rumor going around that Hyundai, they're going to run. They've got a new hypercar coming in for the World Endurance Championship to race Le Mans and stuff like that. And people are saying that's just their feelers to go into Formula One. I think Formula One would love to have another Asian team running in the series. It's going to be interesting. I like what Formula One's doing right now. They just need to have. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mute my phone. Oh. Shut up, phone.
So that's a lot like NASCAR. They used to have 43 cars start a race. Mm-hmm. Now it's a maximum 40, and they're lucky to get 38. And of course they have 36 charters. Mm-hmm. So basically 4 cars can show up and still make the race.
Mm-hmm.
You know, over if you show up without a charter, you can still get in the race
No, it's
usually.
yeah, there used to be a time in racing when we grew up, when we became real big fans, where pretty much any series, if you can go into your garage, if you had a little bit of money, you can build a race car and go out there and race. There were literally guys who show up to IndyCar or NASCAR whose car they built in their garage and show up to the Indy 500, a Daytona 500. You know, they probably were not going to win. They were not, but they would, they'd go out there and they'd try to qualify, and some would actually get in. Even like through the 70s and 80s, there are some garage. But then, of course, money, it's a business, and more money and more money got involved. It cost more and more and more, and the rules got stricter. Carbon fiber was the other thing. It used to be you can go out there, weld yourself a chassis together and go out there and do it. Can't do that anymore with carbon fiber. And the safety regulations also. Um, what's crazy is like
And the
something.
image, they want to project an image of professionalism. They
Right.
don't want somebody throwing up with duct tape, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
And
together.
and the manufacturers also, like in NASCAR, you have Ford, Chevy, and Toyota, and they don't want any. And if you don't have one of those three motors, you can't race in NASCAR. I can go out there and build a motor that meets all of NASCAR's rules and criteria. They won't let me race it because they're not approved by NASCAR. It's not that they didn't write a check. I didn't write a check to NASCAR to do it. Um,
And the
and
cars are basically the same thing.
yeah,
No matter what
mm-hmm.
manufacturer,
and
they're basically cookie cutter cars.
yeah, in NASCAR, yeah, it's pretty much that. And IndyCar is the same thing. It's the exact same Dallara.
With the
Um,
composite bodies and stuff. They don't even, it's not even like metal. It's not even like sheet metal anymore.
no, and what's really crazy in Formula One, every team when they design their new car every year, they build their tub, their chassis. It's this thing made of carbon fiber and unobtainium and who knows what else. And according to the rules, the first thing they have to do once they build that first tub is they got to ship it over to the FIA, and the FIA is going to crash it and destroy it and make
Right.
sure it pass. So you can imagine how much money you spent just on building that one tub, that one chassis, and it's like, here you go, destroy it.
Yeah, and then they send it back in pieces and say, you need to fix this, this, and this.
And
And
then do it
goes
all
on.
over again. Um, that's why Formula One's so damn expensive. But with speaking of expense, I just saw the other day an article according to Forbes, the cheapest Formula One team right now is valued at over $1 billion.
Wow.
Um, it's money. It's money. NASCAR, what's going on? Anything happening over the off season yet? Anything strange or interesting?
Not that I've heard.
You
It's
know,
been pretty quiet, as far as I know. There might be stuff happening that I don't know about that hasn't been released yet. I'm
mm,
sure there's things in the works that are going to be announced soon.
probably between Christmas and New Year's.
When nobody's paying attention, right?
um,
So yeah, I'm just now living for the Daytona 500.
we're
And I guess that'll be the week after the Super Bowl.
uh, usually it is. Let's go a little local here because Daytona's right the road from us. In case you guys don't know, we're both based here in South Florida. Actually, we're both south in Miami-Dade County, just south of the city of Miami. So our speedway is Homestead,
Homestead Miami Speedway.
and they've Homestead used to have the season finale for NASCAR. Then they took it away, gave it to Phoenix, and Homestead was still in the chase at the end. Not anymore. Now the race is only a couple weeks after Daytona in March. Um, what do you think? You think it was a smart move?
I think they're going to have trouble because as far as the Miami fan base,
Mm-hmm.
they've not taken to NASCAR. The Miami fan base is more international, which there's huge Formula One fans here, but not
Mm-hmm.
many NASCAR fans. Now in Homestead, Homestead is an agricultural town with farmers and rednecks and things. it's huge in Homestead, but Homestead doesn't have the population of a Miami. And NASCAR didn't come here for Homestead; they came here for Miami. They wanted to attract that
Right.
Miami crowd, and they can still do it. They just need to have a night race and a Latin jazz fusion band out there playing.
But that's the thing. The last race they had here a few months ago in October, there was no promotion whatsoever. Now, I usually like the few days leading up to a race, a local racer, I'll put on the local news and see what they're reporting about the race. Not that
Nothing.
much. Not that
No.
much. I don't know if they've just given up, the PR people, the marketing team at NASCAR, are they given up trying in Miami, or um
They're not getting the return. They in the
no.
past they've put effort and money into it, and they just didn't see the return from the local base. Now the championship weekend, it was 95% people coming from out of town,
Right.
which is great for Miami. That's what we want. We want the tourists that are going to come
Mhm.
here and spend money. But you're going to put the race on in March. You need to have a local fan base that's going to show up.
Mhm.
And
And
I don't think they have that right now.
and if you look at a map of the state of Florida, at the very tip before you leave the mainland and go to Keys, at the very tip, that's where Homestead is.
All right.
And if you look, I do a lot of road trips. Florida is a big state. It's a long, just to get out of the state of Florida, it takes 6, 7 hours driving. I mean, it's tough. And when you have a race in Daytona in February, where everybody wants to go, all the fans go and everything, and then you tell them a couple weeks later, hey, pack up your car again and head back down to, but this time you're going to drive 5 hours more past Daytona. That's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah.
It's
So that's why they need to really work on establishing a local fan base in Miami. Like you said, they need some sort of media blitz. They need to have some sort of like free giveaways, things like that. That's going to pull people out.
right.
Just having Joey Logano signing autographs at the Target in Pinecrest isn't going to do the trick. Which is what he did. This is what happened this year.
Exactly. And I used to live in Pinecrest, and trust me, people were like probably walking by him. They had no clue who he was.
Future future three-time champion right there.
Yeah, but they had no clue who he was. Um, yeah, they got Formula E coming there too. That'll be interesting. I want to check that out for sure. Um,
Definitely.
uh, but
That's the
it's
future
pardon me.
future of racing.
Yeah, that's. I watched the first race from Brazil this past weekend. It was some good racing out there. They've when the series first started, the cars were not fast. I remember the first couple of years, they literally had to stop in the middle of the race, pull into their garage, and switch cars because they ran out of battery. But now these cars they're like super fast. They can out accelerate a Formula One car. Um, they're pretty cool looking. In a 15-year-old, I designed a car in my notebook kind of way, and I liked it. The race in Brazil is great, so I can't wait for that race in Miami. That's at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Got to talk to those guys. We got to go check that out for sure. Uh,
I think that the EV program,
mhm.
I think they're destined for failure because I think that hydrogen power is gonna rule the
Mhm.
day in the end.
Mhm.
I think that hydrogen is going to be more efficient. It's going to be faster fueling. It's going to have a longer distance that you can go on less fuel.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think that these electric cars are going to be a thing of the past. Everything's going to be moving to hydrogen. Now you might have a hydrogen fuel cell that powers an electric motor,
Mhm.
but it won't be uh, strictly plug and play based as far as plug your car in. It'll be powered by a hydrogen fuel cell.
My prediction, the future is going to be this. You're going to have a hydrogen power fuel cell at your home to
Right.
help power your home and you'll do that,
And that's where you plug
to,
your car in.
and you'll have an EV, but it'll be charged by your fuel cell at home. Um,
Now the real problem with hydrogen is making hydrogen. You know, of course, it's the most abundant element in the universe
but it ain't
is
easy to make.
hydrogen, but it's not easy and expensive to make. It
Expensive.
actually requires more power to separate the hydrogen and oxygen atoms than it does to power a regular gas powered car.
Yeah.
So that's the big obstacle that's in the way.
How you want to know how expensive hydrogen is to make? The largest, where you have the most hydrogen anywhere in the universe, is in water. That
Right.
ocean is 2 parts hydrogen, the ocean. Okay. But it is cheaper to get hydrogen from oil. So when they take out the crude oil and they take it to the refinery, and you get your diesel and your asphalt and your engine oil and your gasoline, they also get the hydrogen from that too. It's cheaper to get it that way than
Yeah.
it is to make from. So
Well,
that tells you it's still not there. It's going to be
yeah.
a while.
Well, but it should be where you can fill your car up with your garden hose. Your car separates those hydrogen and oxygen atoms,
I don't know
pumps
why.
the oxygen into the air, you
You,
know.
you say that, but when I was a kid, I filled up my dad's car with the garden hose, and he got really mad at me.
Don't know why,
uh,
but that's what let's go to solar power with it. You want to use solar power ultimately to do that process. The electrolysis is the process you use to separate the hydrogen and the oxygen. And so obviously solar power is going to be the one that's cheapest because it's the sun. So
still
I've
not
actually lost my train of
it's
thought when you're going with it. So
the
these giant solar farms that they're building, which are totally inefficient because most of the energy that they're creating is needed to just transport the energy through the transmission lines, you know, because it requires a lot of energy to transport electricity through these power lines to your house. So the most efficient way is to have the solar cells panels on your house. Then that totally eliminates the need for the transmission lines. But these giant solar farms that they're making, that's where they need to start producing the hydrogen because they can take the water to there.
you're
They
talking
don't have to
hundreds of
lose all
billions
that
of,
energy going through transmission lines.
and as soon as the
And
oil companies figure out how they can make money from that, and they'll do it in a minute. Okay. uh
yeah. Well, I mean, you're still going to have to pay for your hydrogen just like you pay for gas.
yeah, and it's going to cost. And can you imagine, you look at a map of all the oil pipelines across the United States, the billions and billions of dollars, and it's taken years, over 100 years to develop it. Now say, okay, now we got to do that with hydrogen, which is a different kind of pipeline, which is, you need special pumps for that too, and everything. You're talking trillions of dollars. I mean,
Well, you just transport it by truck, and so that's the huge cost involved is the transmission of the electricity, and then also the electrolysis of the separating of the oxygen and hydrogen, and then also you have to have really pure water. So then you're going to have reverse osmosis,
mm-hmm.
even with fresh water. You almost have to have reverse osmosis just in order to have the pure enough water to use to make
We're gonna have to continue this
hydrogen.
discussion next year
Yeah,
when we have Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos on as our guests.
I'll get on the phone with them tomorrow and
and Al
see
Gore.
when they come on.
All right,
'Cause
we're
that's
running
what
to the end.
Elon was actually saying that the future is hydrogen. That's where I'm kind of getting it from. That he's kind of abandoning the EV market and kind of focusing on the hydrogen deal.
All right, end of the
Okay.
show, end of the season, end of the year. This is going to be our last show until 2025, until we start up again. Any final comment? Any final idea? Are you satisfied with the season?
I'm totally satisfied.
We have another podcast in case you guys don't know. It's called the Fantastic Four. We do a Miami Dolphins podcast, which has been painful to say the least this year. We do it. We have two other people, Jose and Nick. It's a fun thing, and that if you watch our podcast, you'll get the reference with the smoking. Anyway, it's been fun. It's been great. I can't wait. 24 Hours Daytona at the end of January, Daytona 500. We'll have a lot to talk about next year. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to have a good holidays, even though I'll see you next week after the Dolphin game?
I'm ready.
All right. So,
I'm moving
guys,
for the Daytona 500. What I want to do is work on getting some special guests for this podcast. Maybe we can get Mario Andretti, Roger Penske, you know,
let's try. Let's try.
like that.
Maybe we can even try. Maybe we can shoot up. Let's see if we can do the 500 or let's do something. We got 24 hours Daytona, 12 hours Sebring. We got a bunch of stuff. March is going to be a really busy month for us. So we'll see you then. Sure. So like, subscribe, do it. I might pop up from time to time, give a little commentary or something, you know, with Jeff, without Jeff, who knows?
Probably without Jeff. Jeff's very busy.
Jeff's busy. Yes, we're all busy. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week, next month, not even next month, next year.
Next year.
OversteerTV online, the podcast. Season 1 is over.